does not have to have a long ear. So it is separate. That's why I said that the fact that your dad is tall and light skinned does not mean that if you are tall, you will also be light skinned. You can be short and light skinned, and you can be tall and dark skinned. So you take a part from your mother and you take a part from your father. So that's what that is saying. So characters are not linked. Parents are related. Does that say anything? Parents are not related. So the best answer is what? The characters are not linked. Do you get that? So when they blend is when you say that they like when you have red fall and you have white, when you have red flower and you have white flower and it gives you pink, then that means that the characters are blending. They are linking. Do you get that? Number two at the back. So 91 Abi. So listen everybody. The surest way to combine the best qualities of both parents and the offspring is by what? Now there's what we call inbreeding, there's what we call outbreeding, and there's what is called crossbreeding. I think I didn't give you those definitions. Inbreeding is the mating between related organisms. So when you have mating between related organisms, related species, related individuals, like a father and a daughter, that's inside inbreeding within the same individuals. Do you get that? So the same family, they start giving birth to younger generations, then that is inbreeding. And inbreeding is dangerous. It's dangerous because it will continue to conserve some gene, and those genes being conserved become purebred. So at the end of the day, it can lead to what we call non-hybrid vigor. So you're going to have children that are prone to diseases, children that are likely to face difficulties. So the father, the mother, they gave birth, the father and the baby and the child they gave birth, the child and another child they gave birth, and it continues in that family. It used to happen among animals. It should not happen among humans. So that is the thing. So that is called inbreeding. But at the end of the day, you will see that the gene within that family will be conserved. And there will be a stage that, you know, this thing about recessive is that I'm a show there. You remember that one we did for Gregor Mendel? In the first generation, there was no shortness. In the second generation, it shows. If we go on, in the third generation, you see that it will be more pronounced. And with time, everything will become a problem. That is called inbreeding. Do you get that? So outbreeding is when you mate with distant relation. So which is the normal thing we practice. A family will marry into another family. So the strength of this family can combine with the strength of the other family to give birth to a child that is very strong. Or let's even say that in the other family they are intelligent, in the other family they are non-intelligent. When they come together, they can eventually give birth to a child that is intelligent or partially not. Another thing, but imagine the family that they are non-intelligent, they start mating with each other to give birth. What generation will they continue to give? Àwọn tí wọ́n lè fi dìbò kọ̀wé. But that's what you say about variation. A lot of things can still change. Shey you get when it comes to variation, mutation and the likes. But it's most likely going to always cause trouble for inbreeding. But if you want something pure from a family, yes, you can get it. Let's say you see a plant and that plant has a character that you want to conserve, you want to preserve for generations. You can continue to use that seed of that same plant. She gets find a way to always produce that same plant over and over. Or an animal, you saw that this animal used to yield you a lot of things you want, especially cow milk. You want to get cow milk, and you see that this cow used to yield a lot of milk. You might want to preserve the generation of that cow by allowing them to come together over and over and things like that. But that's so Outbreeding is between distant relation. And outbreeding used to lead to what we call hybrid vigor. That means an offspring that is not going to be prone to diseases, that is going to have high chances of survival. I hope you have noted these things I'm talking about. That's the difference between inbreeding and outbreeding. Then crossbreeding. You notice something. You see a plant. This plant has a very, maybe, let me say, the fruits. The fruit is always fresh. And as much as the fruit is fresh, you see another one that grows a better leaf, and that one is always watery. Only, let me just use orange for example. There's one that used to bring more water, that has enough liquid inside, and there's one that used to taste sweet. Then you find a way to combine the two of them. Probably the one that has enough water does not use to taste that sweet. Then you combine them, and when you, that means you are, that's what we call crossbreeding. So you are breeding one species with another species, all because you want a very good attribute of those species to come together. It's agriculturists that do that the most. You have heard about crossbreeding before for dogs. So you can take a species of a dog and another species of that dog and combine them. And you take a Rottweiler, you combine it with probably a German Shepherd, and you're having, they have done it for the likes of animals. They've taken part of tiger and cross it with part of lion. You do that with chicken too. No, okay, all these things that you will, it's not about the, you know, I could remember when we were young, although it might still be. Do you remember that all these are Greek chicken can mate with, when my grandma used to rear chicken? They used to, how do they used to do it? I've forgotten. They will put the egg, they will take the egg and put it under the local, and the local will be the one to protect and nurture and all. Yes, we incubate it and bring out the chicken, and the chicken will leave the, and those chicken that are Greek, they will not be very sharp. They used to be, you know, these are Greek chicken normally, they are slow, sluggish and all. But those ones that they've crossed with the other ones, they used to come out very sharp. I've forgotten how it used to be. There are some chickens too that you see that a black chicken, and a lot of times when we were young, I remember we don't used to like all those black chicken. They used to look somehow. So most times we want when we see cock, the male one that comes into the compound and is looking very fine, we lock the gate. So you allow, they must mate before that one goes out, so that when the other chicken wants to give birth, it will give birth to very fine chicken and all of those things. It's not agree. There is not every chicken that lay eggs. Layers, and those people into agree. It's not every chicken that lay eggs, so Abi. So there are layers and there are this other part. So, but that's the difference. So, what do you think your answer should be here? So, the surest way to combine the best quality of both parents and the offspring, to combine both parents and the offspring, that should be inbreeding. The parents and the offspring, to combine them, that should be inbreeding within the same generation. That's the inbreeding. Do you get that? Please check it very well. Number 92. Blood grouping in human beings is derived from combination of, blood grouping in human being is described, is, we have not done that, you do that. Blood grouping is derived from combination of A, B, and O. Abi? So we have A2 allele, 2 different alleles, B4 different alleles, C3 different allele, D2 2 different genes. It's a 3 different alleles. The alleles are 3, the phenotypes are 4, the genotypes are 6. You will see them. I'll show you. There's what we call the I gene. So the genotypes are 6. So we look at that during variation. So I think that's all. Ah. We said something. Someone said that why does chromosomal aberration, how does it happen to babies without their parents having it? A parent is not showing Klinefelter syndrome, but the baby shows it. Why? Although a whole lot of you don't really know much about reproduction yet, and that's why that term might sound somehow. Meiosis is not genetic. It's not within the gene that it happens. There's crossing over. Crossing over is what happens between parents, which we'll talk about today. But aberration, this is it. Let's say father gave 23 chromosomes, mother gave 23 chromosomes. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be like the sperm, this is supposed to be like the ovum, like the egg. Then when they come together, they form the baby. But look at the problem. This happened. The father is 46, the mother is 46. They are complete. There's no problem. What happened here is called meiosis. So if you understand meiosis, you will know how that happens. So it does not have to affect the parents. Now, by meiosis, father wanted to give, this 23 is not the only one. No. There are a lot of sperm, millions of sperm. So at the end of the day, during meiosis, there is a particular gamete or sperm that is supposed to separate during meiosis. That's why I said if you don't really have the understanding. Do you remember now phase 1? Not all of you, maybe 1 or 2 of you. So that's why learning is always a process. Some things might not be ultimately clear because they are dependent on another thing at a point, but it does not mean you should not try. It might not be so clear. And when you see people at times that they did the class and because they wanted the course, they did another class, it's because they are learning some things with time. It's not because they are dumb. And there are some things you cannot know. I read a book that says that what you don't know, you don't know. You don't know it. So no matter how you struggle, no matter how you try, you might not really know it. Because there are some prerequisites to that. If it had been a secondary school system, normally you should have known all of this in your secondary school. Coming to JAMB class should be like reminding you of everything you did in secondary school. You did these things for 6 years in secondary school. Yes. From basic science to intro tech to everything. Before you now start SS1. So let's say from SS1 you did everything. And at the end of the day, you now come here. I will now say, have you ever heard about meiosis? I know there are some topics that look difficult, even for teachers to explain, even for to understand. It's not a problem. You can just try your best. But I remember when I wanted to learn meiosis and mitosis then, during my JAMB class, we were not taught during that time. And I walked up to someone that I felt understood it. And this person was explaining meiosis, mitosis. I still did not get it. But I kept on, even till I got to university, I kept on, why is it that it's so difficult for people to explain this topic? Then I kept on working on that until a time that I now understood it properly. I might have written down before I even understood it properly. So all of those things, they come in different ways. Now, there's what we call anaphase 1. At anaphase 1, what happened during let me just do this one so that you can't really, when you now get there, you say, oh, you remember. Normally, when father undergoes meiosis, is going to produce different sperm. Must carry 23 chromosomes. Is that taken? so that the 23 when it combines with 23 will give 46 for the baby. But now imagine one of them during Baba's meiosis, error happened, and instead of dividing this 46, there is replication. So this thing is going to be like 23, 23, 23. It will be divided into 4. That's why I say that meiosis always produce 4 daughter cells and all of those things. Now, this 23 that is supposed to separate during anaphase, there was a problem. They didn't totally separate. One of them now became 22. And if this one becomes 22, automatically one must have been 24. Now, is father not 46? Father is 46. But let's now say the child is not so common. That's why we don't have it. Out of billions of or millions of sperm, it might just the error might just be 2 or 3. And you know, this thing is a random event, which we want to talk about. It's random fertilization. So you cannot select that, oh, this is the sperm I want. They have to undergo struggle. Only like 200 of those sperm cells will get to the ovum. And at the end, when they get to the ovum, there will be a lot of reactions at the ovum. Only one will penetrate. A lot might penetrate, but when one enters the ovum and that one fuses with the egg, then it will drop and reaction will happen and they will block every other one from entering. So if you like, release up to 200 million, it is just one that will knock the egg on the head. And the moment that reaction happens between the sperm and the egg, then the baby will be formed. But now imagine out of all the millions, these two that are errors, one of them was chosen for the baby. By the time this one fused with, what's it called, with the egg, how many Lodi? 45. Is it complete? Do you get that? The egg has no problem now, but the sperm has a problem. Now, it gives 45. And when you have 45, that looks like monosomy, Abi. That's Turner syndrome. So the baby we have will definitely be a female because most times it's usually the Y. Then there will be XO, Abi. Y is gone. Then the baby starts having some issues, not develop very well and all of those things. Is this seen in the father? Is this seen in the mother? No. So chromosomal aberration does not mean the father or the mother should have it. It's just an error that happened in the chromosome that led to it. Imagine 24 fused with this, what would that be? 46, 47. And that can lead to what we call the Klinefelter syndrome. That's when you will now have XXY. The person will have extra X copy. And that extra X copy will affect the baby. And that is what happened in that case. So your question, I don't know who asked the question. Yes.
Is there any condition like that can those that can cause like a small having 23 and some having 22, or just like a normal coincidence?
Is there
A condition?
It's an event. There are ways in which you can block it. You know, I said there's what we call aneuploidy and polyploidy. There are ways in which all of these things. What course you want to study? So when you want to study medicine, you know more. There are ways in which you can block some things from happening, but it's not so common, but it happens. It happens. So a whole lot of this can lead to mutation. Even happen in chromosomes. There can be duplication of chromosomes. There can be insertion. Well, don't let me speak deeper.
They say that if a female is in a pregnancy, it's mostly like the child can probably be an
There are a lot of things they used to say. They said that if a female eats too much snail during her pregnancy, the child can be an imbecile. The thing is that, you know, growing up, we learned a lot of things from our parents, especially from my grandma. I learned a lot of things from her. And fine, a whole lot of them might not have the understanding of some things, but they speak reality. They speak reality. If I tell you that smoking causes cancer because of one chemical in smoke, in cigarettes, and that chemical alters something in someone's DNA, and the person have cancer. So it's a lot of things can happen. It can be, I don't want to dispute that fact. Put put àgbàdo in water and you produce ògì, àgbàdo mògì kú ni àbí ṣé àgbàdo momi yó ni? But if our grandmas will say, they will say that the corn must have imbibed a lot of water and become soft and all of those things. Whereas until I got to a level when I was studying microbiology in OAU, I got to realize that, oh, there are some microorganisms that are actually working. At the end of the day, these microorganisms that were working, they will have to keep changing. What they just knew as parents, as my grandma used to say, is that a change omi, whereas there are some things produced by those microorganisms that makes the water to act like that. So when you change it, they are practicing science, but they might not have a deeper knowledge to that level. So when they say some things, even when they say abiku abiku, science will prove it to you, but ṣábí kò ṣẹlẹ̀, it happens. They find a way to block it. We cannot neglect culture and some other things, but the fact remains that abiku will happen when resource factor and all of those things, or a whole lot of things that affect baby. My grandma, when someone gives birth, she will tell us that she used to, I see when she tells her pregnant women that ma momi tutu and all of those things. And most women that used to take, that they like that cold drink and cold water, some people even be eating ice block during pregnancy. They will say that's what they want to eat. And at the end of the day, when they give birth, the baby might not be able to breathe well. And grandma will be saying, ṣebí mo sọ fún ẹ, má momi tútù and all of those things. I could not tell much, but when I did micro too, I realized what could have also caused that. And but when I did my own experiment, I was using pregnant women then for my experiment. And at the end of the day, what caused it? It was one microorganism that I was looking for, streptococcus then. And I saw like 2 of them positive out of like 45 that I did. So a whole lot, they speak science. My grandma is a midwife, so a whole lot of times she knows, oh, ìwọ tó bá ṣe lè jù, ó máa affect baby ẹ tó bá ṣe lè. And sometimes too, they even say that if a female is too short, it becomes a bit difficult to give birth. All of these things happen. No discrimination. All of these things is just for you to take measure. Go through some exercises that relaxes your body and a whole lot of things. So that's by the way, you will know more. But all these ones are still basic knowledge. So please, does that answer the question on chromosomal aberration? The person asked that, so from what I've said now, the person says, sir, please, the person is respectful, sir, please, comma. The chromosomal aberration, how does it happen to babies? Although the person did not know where to use capital letter with small letter. The chromosomal aberration, how does it happen to babies without their parents not having it? So you can see now, it's a random event. It's something that can happen during meiosis, not because of the parents. So you can marry a normal father and sometimes give birth. Please, this is not seminar. Let's do something that has to do with biology class, because we have a lot to learn and we have a lot to do. Explain how mutations in gametes affect inheritance patterns. What would happen? What will happen if meiosis did not occur before fertilization? How do you want to produce sperm? How do you want to produce egg? There are some fertilization that happens without mating. I hope you know that. Parthenogenesis and all of those things. So that question for now. But the first one, mutation, is part of what we want to talk about. Stop jumping the gun. Mutation happens. You know, in the last class, I told you about codons.
Yes.
Share it. The link. Sorry. It's one of the things we are learning in class. So It's better you know how to express yourself. But don't go home and become a medical doctor to your parents when you don't have certificate. So let's share the link. Sorry. So please, mutation. I told you something. Listen, let me just explain it under variation. I don't know who asked the question, but let me keep it so that it's part of the things I need to talk about under variation. So can we move on now? So you can keep questions if you have some. Where's the duster that I put? So due to the time and the days we have for classes, because of the short time, I will try and make sure that this class is summarized too, like I did the last time. But I want to ask a question. The last class we did, were you able to get something?
Yes.
So please, due to the time, we might not be able to be dictating notes. And a whole lot of times, you don't need much notes in this class. You need understanding and getting things right. And after the class, pick questions and solve and keep practicing till the day of your exam. So please, if you're not looking at me, you should look at me. Mark Awolori. So look at me. So when you talk about variation in biology, variation is just from the word introduction now. It's just talking about the differences we have among organisms of the same species. The differences, you don't exactly look like your dad and you don't exactly look like your mom. Is that taken? That is what we call variation. And variation is very important because it helps us with a lot of things. Imagine all of us look the same in this universe. Then you want to call Wura. You don't even know which is Wura. Although everybody will be named numbers. Number 1, number 2, number 3. As you are born, they give you numbers. So the moment they want to call you, they just say number 14, you just become it. I know a father that gave all his children numbers, no name, because he has a lot of children. He married up to like 30 wives. Yes. And he has a lot of children. And he does not know them. I've met him before. And whenever I want to call those children, we say number 14. And the child will be coming. So for variation is talking about the differences. If you look at your mom and you look at your dad, you might look a bit like them, but you don't have everything they have. That is it. So sometimes I look at my mom, I look at my dad, I try to look at what did I get from my mom and all of those things. What did I get from my dad? I look at everything. I don't even know. But I know height is part of it. Maybe we all got our height from our dad. So none of us look like our mom in height. So then another thing is this window peak. My dad has it too. Then the way my hand looks, my dad has. I took almost everything from my dad, except maybe leg. So if you look at my leg, it's like I took my mommy's leg. And some of my attitude too. I think I took a lot of my mom's attitude too. But my dad's major attitude in one way or the other. So all combined. Now you know what you carry from your mom. So, but when you are now saying that, oh, why is it that you now differ from your mom and you differ from your dad? You are not exactly the same. Then that is what we say causes. What are the causes? Why do we all look different? So what is variation? Differences, Abby. Differences among species. So differences among species is what we call variation. Then difference in height, look, behavior, a whole lot of things. Then what are the causes of variation? Variation can happen in two major ways. How you look, what do we call how you look? Phenotype, Abi. So, but what determines how you look is your gene. But not only your gene, your environment. So, everybody now, we have our gene plus our environment, which determines how we look. So which means your genotype plus your environment determines what? Your phenotype. And you all know what gene is talking about. All those things you gain from your mother, your DNA and the likes, which we have been talking about all this while. So now, what are really the causes of variation? So variation is caused due to gene and environment. In this gene, how do you get things from your mother? How do you get it from your father? It happens through two processes, majorly through mutation and through sexual reproduction. A lot of things can happen at your gene level, which we call mutation. A lot of things can happen. And during sexual reproduction too, you can't tell which sperm. There's what we call random assortment. You are not the one that will determine the chromosome that you want. It will be randomly assorted. You are not the one that will determine the color you want. You are not the one that will say, oh, this is the height that I want. It's going to be randomly assorted. And that's why we talked about that under the Gregor Mendel's second law, Abi, which is called the law of independent assortment of genes, right? Another thing is random fertilization. Random fertilization. I thought I brought. Okay. I brought one small note. One paper. Okay. There was a time I had a note. Bóyá chemical ló ti jẹ gbogbo ẹ̀. I did not dash you. Tell me to read it. So there are several sperm, and out of all of these sperm, it is just one that will fertilize the egg. Abi? So the ones that fertilize the egg is what will determine how you look. And that one carries its own gene. That is called random fertilization. It's just normal thing. Then, which other one again? I think I saw something there. Yes, crossing over. Crossing over is another one. Now, if you don't understand meiosis, you might not know how crossover happens. During meiosis, let's say this is the structure of chromosome. Let me just show you something simple. Let's say the father is capital T at this location, and the mother is short. The mother is small t. Now, during meiosis, these two chromosomes called homologous chromosomes, they will pair up. You will still go back to meiosis, don't worry. We will still do this topic like relation again. So it's because we are combining, and I know your teacher wouldn't have got to reproduction. So, but just get the little thing. Do you know this structure? Which structure is this? Chromosome. Now, where I'm showing this character, what is that location called? Locus. These two are called what? Your gene or genotype. Abi? So I'm not saying that, let's say this is a chromosome from your mom, this is a chromosome for your dad. During meiosis, the two will pair up. They go through some processes. They will pair up. By the time they pair up, then they will exchange a part. Now, when they exchange a part, let's say this part was exchanged when they paired up, you will understand it more later. At the end, they now have something like this. This one will now be capital T, small t. Then this will also be capital T, small t. At the end of the day, the baby can get this. So the baby getting this now does not look exactly like the father, but the baby is going to be tall. He got one from the mother and one from the father. And you know there are a lot of genes on those chromosomes. So a lot of things could have happened. The father might be brown eye and the mother might be blue eye, and they will exchange it and the baby will pick a part. So all of these things that happen. So when gene is exchanged on homologous chromosomes during meiosis, we call it crossing over. So you can see that this baby now, for baby's sake, does not look like the mother, Abi, and does not look like what? The father exactly. But he got a part of the father and he also got a part of the mother. Do you get that? That's just the point of crossing over. So crossing over is called the exchange of genes between homologous chromosomes. That's crossing over. So you might not know much yet, but you will get to know it later. So another thing that can affect the gene is mutation. To those of you that talk about mutation, please you understand this part. Random assortment is just you don't know which color goes for the height and the other. Every time you have a specific acid, this is supposed to be for you normally. Error can be insertion, deletion, or substitution. The gene, and the errors can be insertion, deletion,